We are on the eve of NHL free agency and we have a lot to cover today. We have the latest UFA rumors around where players might be heading tomorrow, including Evgeny Malkin, Johnny Gaudreau, and others. Plus, we have trade rumors around players like Brent Burns, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Could he eventually or will he soon end up in Montreal? Plus, we're going to take a look at the Philadelphia Flyers and the Florida Panthers and several signings as well. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. It's the eve of NHL free agency. There's all kinds of rumors floating around where free agents are going to go. Still more trades that we could see. And we had a bunch of signings today, so let's dive right in and get started. First up, a couple of off-ice news. Duncan Keith officially retired today. We did put up a video on the channel discussing his career and the retirement that was expected to come back 3 or 4 days ago when it was first released to the media at the NHL draft. So of course we won't go into great detail here today since we've already done that before, but he did officially announce his retirement and have a press conference today, so he is officially retired. And we also got word today that Scotty Bowman, longtime NHL coach and executive, been around the league for like 60 plus years, who had been working with the Chicago Blackhawks most recently for the last number of years as an advisor, especially during the long tenure of his son, the former GM, Stan Bowman, has now officially left the Blackhawks. He's no longer affiliated. His contract's up as of July 1st. But he says in his post to social media that he still very much loves the game and would sounds like he'd still be very much interested in helping a team win. So I don't know if he'll ever get back into it. He's in his late 80s now. He's a hockey lifer, been in the game for, like I said, well over 60 years. Be interesting to see if he does get on with any other clubs, but felt it was time to move on from Chicago, which the Tampa Bay Lightning have also added to their coaching staff. Of course, we saw that they lost former assistant coach Derek Lalonde, who's now the new head coach for Detroit, and they've taken on former Detroit head coach Jeff Blashill to replace him as an assistant coach. So we kind of like seeing a trade basically between Detroit and Tampa amongst the coaches. And these two teams, of course, are very well connected given the long history of Steve Yzerman, of course, longtime Red Wing as a player, now a Red Wing GM, was with the Lightning for a long time as a GM. So there's very much big connection there between the two teams. We've seen several moves, and this is another situation that kind of coincides with that. It's not really a trade per se, but obviously would have come on a high recommendation from the Red Wings situation. Now, a bunch of signings. Some of these came late yesterday. The rest of them come today. For starters, the Penguins have signed Rickard Rakell to a 6-year deal at $5 million per season, so $30 million total. Rakell was obviously acquired at the deadline, was a pretty good fit, although when he was acquired, it was kind of done so with the idea of playing with Evgeny Malkin on that second line. And of course, now things are looking bleak for the return of Malkin, which we'll discuss here a little bit later on. But it's a pretty good contract for Rakell. He did seem to fit well in Pittsburgh. Pretty good two-way forward, very versatile, can play all three forward positions. So I don't mind that deal for Pittsburgh. The Rangers have signed defenseman Libor Hayek on a 1-year deal as well. The Pittsburgh Penguins also had another signing as well, announcing defenseman Pierre-Olivier Joseph is signed to a 1-year, two-way contract, $875,000 at the NHL level. The Los Angeles Kings announced that they're bringing back defenseman Alex Edler. He gets a 1-year deal at $750,000, but where it's a 35-plus contract, they have bonuses built in, which can be done on a 1-year deal, so he can earn an additional $750,000 via bonuses. I don't have the details on what the bonuses are, but they're typically games played, whether or not the team makes the playoffs. Sometimes there's personal statistics involved. It just depends, but a lot of it's around games played and making playoffs, that kind of stuff. And we'll see, but he can earn up to $1.5 million on the contract. The Carolina Hurricanes have signed Stefan Nason to a 2-year deal. The first year is a two-way contract, $750,000 at the NHL level, $500,000 at the American Hockey League level, which is really high, with a guaranteed total to be earned of around, I think it was $555,000. So that's a pretty lucrative contract. But of course, the Canes AHL affiliate was just won the American League Calder Cup, and Stefan Nason played a huge role in that. So obviously he's being rewarded for that. He's a player who's had a decent amount of NHL experience before, but a player who's kind of gone up and down a lot over the years. So now the second year of this contract is a one-way deal, $775 at the NHL level. So he's certainly working his way back up, so to speak, after stretches of being an NHL player, bottom six forward in the past, and certainly getting a reward and bump in salary for his contributions to helping them win the Calder Cup at the the AHL level. The Buffalo Sabres have signed Vinny Hinostroza. They bring him back on a one-year deal at $1.7 million. That's not a huge surprise. There was a lot of rumors that he would be returning to Buffalo. Decent contract for him. The Coyotes are bringing back Christian Fischer on a one-year deal as well. Never really materialized to be quite what they thought when they first drafted him, but he has been I guess you could say a decent bottom six forward, and obviously he'll continue to play there for a little longer. And the Seattle Kraken also announced they've re-signed forward Alexander True on a one-year, two-way contract, $750 at the NHL level. So True was the pick from the expansion draft from the Sharks. He did see very limited NHL time last year, and spent mostly playing time at the AHL. So obviously, as I mentioned, there's a lot of signings here today, and that's all as of the recording of this video here, at least. But onto the UFA Rumours. Like I said, we are the eve of free agency. Tomorrow, July the 13th, at noon Eastern, free agency officially opens, and the silly season will be upon us. We're going to see lots of movement, I'm sure, and lots of players getting pretty lucrative contracts. It's going to be very interesting to see where a lot of these players go. A couple of the biggest names that we're watching here, one is Johnny Gaudreau in Calgary. Frank Saravalli reported earlier today that the Calgary Flames have tabled a new offer, which is believed to be north of $10 million on an 8-year deal. That's over $80 million. That's ridiculously high. There's no doubt that if Johnny does not sign here, and he's got a number of hours left, the clock is ticking for him to even be eligible for an 8-year deal. By the time this makes it to YouTube, it's only going to be a few hours left. And you know what? To be honest, if he doesn't sign tonight and doesn't get to 8 years, I don't really see a situation where he's going to re-sign. I really don't know that it's going to happen. I guess they could configure things on a 7-year deal, but to be honest, I just don't know that that's really what this is about. To be honest, I think with Johnny Gaudreau, this is more about lifestyle, family, fit, and everything else. Yes, money to a degree, but it's not all about money. To be honest, I don't see another team ponying up any more cash than that. If you think about it, what other teams can offer him 7 years instead of 8, like 7 times 10 is $70 million. 8 times 10 is $80 million. What do you think he would take, right? I mean, if this was all about money, I think the deal in the Flame system would be done. So for Flames fans, I'm royally concerned that this is going to be John Tavares 2.0. Now, it's not exactly the same scenario because John Tavares could have been traded at the deadline, said he didn't want to be dealt. Different scenario where the Flames were in a much better spot to make the playoffs and, looked like they were going to win the division, have a chance to go on a run, so it didn't make sense to consider trading him, right? So different scenario in that sense, but John Tavares was like the first big ticket free agent to really change, teams through free agency in the modern era. And, Johnny Gaudreau could be heading down that path himself. So we'll see. But right now, the other teams that are rumored to be heavily interested to talk to Gaudreau are the New Jersey Devils, the New York Islanders, the Philadelphia Flyers are the main 3 teams that we're hearing. Of course, all in that, somewhat short radius of where he's from in the Northeast. I don't know where he's going to end up. My gut feeling says New Jersey, just because I think New Jersey, out of between, if you look, and even the Flyers, there's no doubt that Philly's interested, but at this point, they haven't been able to clear enough salary. If between tonight and tomorrow, before free agency opens, you see them making some moves, and we're going to talk about the Flyers trade rumors coming up later in the video, then that's going to be a, kind of a situation where they're putting themselves in a spot to go after him, and if they don't get Johnny, another top free agent, because they're trying to retool here. But right now, I don't see how the Flyers can do it. But the interest is definitely there. The Devils, though, to me, have the most space, and they can by far outbid just about anybody, except maybe Calgary. The Islanders, very much interested as well. I don't know that the Islanders are going to be able to outbid them. But like I said, I don't think this is all about money. If he wants to win sooner than later, Yes, the Islanders had a down year, but they've had more success more recently than any of those other teams. You throw Johnny Gaudreau on the wing of Matthew Barzal, that might be enticing for him. They could certainly bounce back, I think, a lot quicker than most other teams. The Flyers are a bit of a mess right now, in my opinion. They have a lot of work to be done to become contenders. The Devils are an interesting team. With the right moves, they could certainly get back in the playoff hunt this year. And obviously, he might like the idea of playing with guys like Jack Hughes, longer term. So I don't know, right? That's the thing. It's been like radio silence on Gaudreau. Like, there's been no news. Like, and his agent has a history of taking this right to the wire with all of his clients. And we'll see. But right now, that's the latest on Johnny. And the Flames can say they've done everything they could to bring him back. But, it's just that. And now the other big news, too, before we jump into the rest of the free agent rumors, is that Frank Saravalli said today on his daily streaming show on the dailyfaceoff.com, he feels if the Calgary Flames lose Johnny Gaudreau in free agency, that they're basically going to feel forced to trade Matthew Tkachuk. We know Matthew Tkachuk could take a 1-year deal as an RFA. He's got ARB rights, so it's not going to be easy to finagle himself to a 1-year deal if that's what he really wants, and become a UFA. The same thing could happen to them next year. After losing Johnny Gaudreau, assuming that happens, do you think they're going to want to put themselves through that again? They're not going to want to go down that road if they really think, unfortunately, that it could happen. They can't let two mega stars walk out the door for nothing. You can't do it. Like, you're going to set yourself back big time. So Saravalli thinks that they might be forced to trade Tkachuk and start over. That was his words today on the dailyfaceoff.com live streaming show that he does Monday through Friday. So we'll see if Frank is on to something in that case. We know that Matthew Tkachuk had some trade chatter around him at the NHL draft. Obviously, nothing happened. There was rumors that the Devils were trying to bring Tkachuk over with that number 2 pick. Certainly that never came to be, of course, but there was a lot of rumors going around that was being discussed. We've heard for the last couple of years the connection of Matthew Tkachuk to his hometown St. Louis Blues. I don't know if there could be anything to that. I'm sure there'd be interest. Whether or not they can make it work is another story. But still, could be a very interesting time. You could have a team go from being a division winner and a challenger for a cup, at least you think, to losing their 2 mega stars like that. That would be devastating. I just can't imagine the stress that Brad Treliving must be under right now. But this whole Johnny Gaudreau free agency thing is running out of time. We're soon going to know the answer. And if he doesn't come back to Calgary, it could be a spin-off effect. And we'll see what the plans of Tkachuk will be if that indeed does happen. I can just imagine. It's a stressful time to be a Flames fan for sure. Now, the other big free agent that we want to talk about as well is Evgeny Malkin, who seems like he got really frustrated with the Penguins and their lack of offering anywhere near what he wanted. Felt like they was disrespecting him. Wasn't a priority like some of the other contracts they've looked after this offseason. And it seems like right now, I don't know that even if they come back and offer what he wants, if he'd sign. There's talk that guys like Crosby and Letang are probably going to try to talk to him and see what they can do. I don't know, but, where could he go? There's bound to be interest. I know some people were saying the Rangers, the Capitals, Florida, but I don't know how. It'd be challenging for just about any team to pull it off. But the NHL insiders are saying that Malkin, if he leaves Pittsburgh, would probably be willing to sign a shorter term with a new team than he would with Pittsburgh for a chance to win. So we'll see what happens. But right now, things are not looking good for Malkin to return to Pittsburgh. But could there be a last-minute change of heart? We'll see. Jack Campbell's expected to go to Edmonton. Many feel that they are the main team that will pay the price he's looking for. Darcy Kuemper's expected to go to Washington. And then that will not really put an end to the free agent goalies. But of course, there's Ilya Samsonov will be out there now after not being tendered a qualifying offer. And I do wonder if we could still see a spin-off effect there. There's still teams looking for goalies. I know there was a long time, not really super long, but over the past year, there's been a number of rumors about the Habs wanting Samsonov. I wonder if they would go after him and consider trading Jake Allen or something like that. That's just a thought. I don't know. There's no rumor suggesting that they're working on that, but I just wonder because there's been links there before. So I guess time will tell. If the Pittsburgh Penguins do indeed lose Evgeny Malkin, I would think that a good replacement that they're probably going to target in free agency is going to be Vinny Trochek. Obviously, a product of the area, going to be a free agent, a pretty good number 2 center in his own right. I would think he would be an affordable replacement. Not going to give you the same kind of player, of course, but he'd be a good option to look at for a 2C. Nazem Kadri is expected to be very much open to talking to a variety of teams. Basically, the way Darren Dreger put it was that he's expected to make his rounds, talk to lots of teams, GMs, coaches, players, just kind of get a feel and where he's going to best fit before he makes his decision. Again, another player linked to teams like the Rangers, for example. Apparently, the Rangers are going to be out on Andrew Kopp. It sounds like they're not going to be able to afford or willing to match what he's looking for in a new contract. So he's not expected at this point, barring some kind of change of heart again, that he's not going back to New York. So we don't know where he's heading. Maybe Detroit, Seattle, hard to say. Then you get Kadri out there as well. I'm not sure about Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome's another wild card in the Rangers organization. They very much might walk from Strome and Kopp and turn to a guy like Kadri. That wouldn't be shocking, but I don't know what kind of money, if they're going to be able to squeeze that under the cap. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be a very interesting day tomorrow. On the trade front, it seems very likely now that the possibilities have increased substantially. We're going to see a Brent Burns trade. There was some talk about it before, but now that there's a new Sharks GM, Mike Greer's made it known with comments that he made. It was asked about Brent Burns, and he basically said that they're open to it and that they'll work with Brent Burns to try to find something that works. So ultimately, the 2 teams that have been linked to him right now is Dallas and Carolina. He has a no-move clause with a 3-team list that he can be traded to, so he'd have to submit that. And it's believed that Dallas and Carolina would be 2 out of the 3 teams that are on his list, so they may not need to get additional consent. Of course, he has a ranch in Texas that he spends a lot of time at in the offseason, so Dallas would probably make a lot of sense, but of course we know they're likely losing John Klingberg in free agency, so obviously a Brent Burns trade would be bring in a big right shot defenseman to replace him. Familiarity there with Coach Peter DeBoer, Joe Pavelski, so I'm sure that might be his first choice. We know Carolina's looking for a right shot D to replace Tony DeAngelo, so they're likely going to be in on the same guys, whether it be obviously a guy like Burns, possibly Klingberg in free agency, or there's a talk about maybe Jeff Petrie out of Montreal as well. So expect, those 3 players to maybe all kind of have a little, carousel, so to speak, where they might all kind of change places. Hard to say, but lots of activity that we could see in that regard. The Philadelphia Flyers are still, like I said, trying to free up some space. They want to move the final year for the contract of James Van Riemsdyk, but teams willing to take on JVR just want way too much, and right now Chuck Fletcher appears unwilling to pay that necessary price. So that's going to hamper things, though. They've already brought in DeAngelo and signed him, and right now they just don't have a lot of space to do a lot else. They bought out Oscar Lindblom today. That gives them a little bit of flexibility, but still, there's not a lot of wiggle room in Philadelphia, which is a part of the issue here. And this retool that they want to do, aggressive retool at that, might appear to be a lot more challenging than they thought going into it. And like I said, if they're going to be, don't be shocked if you see them clearing space to try to go after Gaudreau, but it's not going to be easy, and they may have to really mortgage the future here to make it happen. So I don't know if they're really going to be able to stand a chance. When it comes to the Panthers, same thing. Word is they want to keep Claude Giroux and Ben Sherratt, but they have no money to spend based on being capped out almost. It's quite likely they're losing Mason Marchment. Apparently he's looking for a similar deal to Carter Verhaeghe. So probably like a 3 or 4 year deal between $3 to $4 million. So that's probably going to price himself out of Florida. Not hard to say where he could go, but a variety of teams will be interested, I'm sure, after watching what he's done the last year or two. But again, in Florida, will they look to move Patrick Hornqvist? He's got 1 year left on his deal, over $5 million. That would help a lot. They're expected to get a long-term extension in place for Jonathan Huberdeau in the near future here as well. So that could also be a big part of it, waiting to see what they do there. But of course, that won't impact the cap for the coming season. It'll be years beyond that. But still, like the Florida Panthers, if they're going to stand a chance to get this done, they need to move out money. There's just no doubt about it. Claude Giroux is very much linked to his hometown Ottawa Senators as well. A lot of insiders feel they stand a great chance, especially after being aggressive and doing all the other moves that we've seen them do here in the past week. Of course, they acquired Cam Talbot tonight. They traded Matt Murray yesterday. They picked up, obviously, Alex DeBrincat at the draft. And now they're expected to possibly sign Giroux if they win over him for his services. And they're trying to add a defenseman. And they've talked to his teammate in Florida, Mackenzie Weegar, or talked to the Panthers about Weegar, I should say. But word is that right now their preference is still to extend Weegar and keep him in Florida. A trade would only likely come together if they were feeling that that's not going to happen, or whatever the case may be, if it's getting like it's not working out. But at this rate, I'm not expecting a Weegar deal, but a Giroux signing in Ottawa is likely. But if Florida can figure it out, he might be tempted to stay there if he feels he's got a better chance to win a Stanley Cup. Now, the other big news today involving the Montreal Canadiens, the Winnipeg Jets, and Pierre-Luc Dubois has information coming from Martin Leclerc of Radio-Canada, talking today that he says in his report that the Habs and the Jets are working on a deal to eventually bring PLD to the Montreal Canadiens in the long run. So even if it doesn't happen here shortly, it will happen eventually, or at least that's the talk and the hopefulness of the Habs. And of course the Jets, if they feel the need to trade him, which they probably will eventually, that would be where they would obviously, where Dubois is rumored to want to go. The article goes on to say that obviously having a trio of centers, including Nick Suzuki, Kirby Dach, and Pierre-Luc Dubois, would greatly accelerate the rebuild and then obviously, move things along at a much faster rate. Now, of course, we see where the New York Rangers are today, and that rebuild went pretty well, pretty quick, and I think Jeff Gorton could get a significant amount of the credit for the work he did. Of course, when he was fired, a lot of the work had already been done. So, yeah, Chris Drury's a good GM. I'm not taking away from him, but Gorton did most of that work, right? So, at the end of the day, they could do the same thing in Montreal, and I do agree that if they acquire a guy like Dubois, they would be pretty set down the middle, and they very well could accelerate the rebuild and be competitive a lot sooner than people think. At this point, though, that also says that there was a close call at the draft, and that things almost came together at the draft, according to this person's information here at Radio Canada, Martin Leclerc. So I'm not sure. I mean, I have no reason to doubt what he's saying. I would be not be surprised to find out that Montreal was at least talking about Dubois. I don't know how close things would have got. Obviously, we know that they're in a situation they might need to trade him, but it sounds like it could be something that the Habs are certainly serious about doing, and even if that doesn't happen right away, it could happen eventually as a plan to bring the centerman back to his home province to accelerate the Habs rebuild. So let me know what your thoughts will be on that. All the other rumors there today and signings. It's going to be a busy day tomorrow, so stay tuned. We'll keep you up to date with everything here at Top Shelf Hockey, all the latest news, rumors, and signings, etc. for all 32 NHL teams. So make sure you subscribe if you're new so you don't miss anything. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.